In this video, I want to address a common statement I hear from people. It goes like this: I could never worship a God who fill in the blank. So the way that the annihilationist might put it is like this: I could never worship a God who allowed eternal conscious torment. Or an Arminian might say, I could never allow or worship, I should say, a God who would elect people based upon his inscrutable decree rather than foreknowledge of their free choices. So in other words, the Arminian couldn't worship the God of Calvinism. Or a person might say, I could never worship a God who commanded the occupation of Canaan and the eradication of the Canaanites, etc. And I certainly understand the intuition behind each one of those statements, and they are predicated upon a prior understanding of God as a being that is worthy of worship. You could put it in terms of the Anselmian language, a God who is that being than which none greater can be conceived, or that being that exemplifies the maximal set of compossible great-making properties. In other words, God is just that greatest possible being, and then this person says, yeah, but I wouldn't worship that being if that being allowed eternal conscious torment, or elected people based upon the inscrutable divine decree rather than foreknowledge, or decreed the eradication of the Canaanites or something else. And the assumption there is that that being wouldn't be worthy of worship because that being did one of these particular things, so I would not worship that being. Well, that is possible, but there is another possibility that we have to keep in mind, and that possibility is that our intuitions about one of these particular issues, or our reasoning about that particular issue, whether it be eternal conscious torment, or Calvinist understanding of election, or the eradication of the Canaanites, or some other issue, it could be that our reasoning about it, or our moral intuitions that drive that concern, are in fact flawed in some way or to some degree. So I think a more cautious, less rhetorically satisfying perhaps, but nonetheless more cautious and appropriate response would be, we have two options. If one of those things should obtain contrary to what we believe to be true. Option one is that the being in question is not in fact God as conventionally defined and thus should not be worshipped. Or option two, which is that we are fallible, we were wrong in our intuitions and our reasoning about one of these particular issues. And so in fact, we should worship that being, but we should recognize that there was a fallible sense of reasoning that drove our objection to eternal conscious torment, Calvinism, or the eradication of the Canaanites. So I think those are the two options. In fact, it would be fundamentally irrational, and this is really the third option, but it's the irrational option. It would be fundamentally irrational to refuse to worship a God who is in fact perfect based upon our flawed understanding of that perfection. And so that's the third option that we should be careful to avoid. If the being that is described as one of these ways is not in fact God, yes, you don't worship that being. But if you are flawed in your reasoning, you should indeed worship that being. It would be irrational not to do so.